The holographic deed flickered in Benny's calloused hands as he stood at the edge of his newly acquired property. 2 credits. That's all it had cost him, less than a cup of synthetic coffee at the spaceport. The land stretched before him like an endless ocean of rust-colored sand, dotted with crystalline rock formations that caught the twin sun's light and refracted it into prismatic shards. "You're insane," Elsa had told him when he'd shown her the purchase confirmation. She was the station's chief terraforming engineer, practical to her core, with eyes that had seen too many failed colonial ventures. That sector's been scanned 100 times. Nothing but silica and regret. But Benny had smiled, that infuriating smile that made Elsa want to simultaneously kiss him and push him out an airlock. Sometimes the best treasures are the ones everyone stops looking for. Now, 3 months later, Benny sat in his prefab shelter, watching his credits dwindle to nothing. The desert had yielded exactly what the surveys promised. Nothing. His moisture collectors gathered barely enough water to keep him alive. His solar panels, constantly coated in fine dust, operated at 30% efficiency. He was surviving, not living. It was on the edge of starvation, on a morning when the twin suns rose blood-red over the horizon, that Benny heard the sound. A low rumble, like thunder rolling across the dunes. But the sky was cloudless. The ground beneath his feet vibrated. Benny grabbed his plasma rifle, worthless against most threats, but it made him feel better, and stepped outside. The dragon emerged from behind a crystalline outcropping. That was the only word for it. Though Benny's rational mind screamed that dragons were fantasy, mythology, impossibility. But there it was, serpentine body covered in scales that looked like burnished metal, wings that seemed woven from some material that bent light itself, and eyes golden, intelligent eyes that fixed on him with unmistakable hunger. Benny didn't run. There was nowhere to run to. The dragon approached, each step deliberate, and Benny noticed it was limping. One of its hind legs dragged slightly, and there was a wound in its side, a gash that leaked something that glowed faintly purple in the morning light. "You're hurt," Benny said, surprising himself with his own calmness. The dragon stopped, its head tilted, studying him with an intelligence that made Benny's skin prickle. Then, impossibly, it spoke not with words, but directly into his mind. "The hunters wounded me. I fled here, to the dead lands, where no one would follow." Benny lowered his rifle. "You're telepathic? We are the Draconii. We were old when your species first looked to the stars, and you're hungry, starving. But I will not eat you, small one. You have shown me courtesy. That is rare." Benny thought of Elsa, of her practical wisdom. She would tell him to call for help, to alert the colonial authorities about an unknown alien species. Instead, he said, "I have nutrient packs. They're not much, but you're welcome to them. And I can look at that wound." The dragon, the Draconii, lowered itself to the ground with a sigh that sounded like wind through metal pipes. Over the following weeks, an unlikely partnership formed. Benny tended to the Draconii's wound, using his basic medical supplies and improvised bandages made from his shelter's spare fabric. The creature, who told him its name was something unpronounceable that translated roughly to Ember of the Void, shared knowledge. The worthless desert, Ember explained, sat atop a vast network of caverns. Within those caverns grew crystals infused with a mineral the Draconii called starcore, a substance that could power a ship for decades on a fragment the size of a thumbnail. The crystalline formations on the surface were merely the tips of massive underground deposits. "Why didn't the surveys detect this?" Benny asked. "Because starcore exists partially outside your dimension. Your scanners cannot see it. Only the Draconii have the senses to find it." Benny's hands shook as the implications crashed over him. This land, it's not worthless. No, it is priceless. When Elsa's transport touched down 3 days later, she'd come despite his protests. Worried about his long silence, she found Benny standing beside a creature that shouldn't exist, surrounded by crates of crystals that glowed with internal starlight. "Benny," she whispered, her practical mind struggling to process the impossibility before her. "What have you done?" "I made a friend," Benny said simply. "And apparently, I'm sitting on the largest star core deposit in the sector." Ember's mental voice touched both their minds. The boy has shown kindness when he had nothing to give. Now he has everything. That is how the universe maintains balance. Elsa approached slowly, her engineer's mind already calculating, planning. "The Colonial Commission will want this land. They'll try to take it. Let them try," Benny said, resting a hand on Ember's scaled flank. The Draconii rumbled contentedly. "They can't mine Star Core without Draconii guidance. Ember and I have a different plan, a partnership. Fair trade, fair wages. We'll revolutionize interstellar travel, but we'll do it right." Elsa looked at the man she'd thought was a foolish dreamer and saw someone else entirely, someone who'd gambled everything on intuition and won not just wealth, but something rarer, an alliance that could change the galaxy. "You're still insane," she said, but she was smiling. "Probably," Benny agreed. "Want to be insane with me?" As the twin suns set over the desert that was no longer worthless, painting the star core crystals in shades of amber and gold, Elsa took Benny's hand. "Someone has to keep you from getting eaten by dragons," she said. Ember's laughter echoed in their minds, ancient and warm, as the first stars began to appear in the darkening sky.